Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Anne and today I'm giving you my TBR for the Path or Pantheon Readathon. This readathon is kind of a sequel or a follow-up to the Make Your Myth Taker readathon that happened last year, and it is organized by the book club kind of thing, Myth Take Reads I think it's called. I'm not entirely sure, maybe I should have prepared a little bit better for this. But I participated in the Make Your Myth Taker readathon last year. I actually dressed up as a pirate for the TBR video then, which was a lot of fun. But this year's readathon seems like a lot of fun as well. It's based on gods from all kinds of different mythologies, and you can either choose a path or a pantheon. So for this readathon there are all these different gods from all these different mythologies, and they all have a prompt connected to them. And if you choose a pantheon, you choose the gods from one mythology. Like the Greek pantheon, you get all the Greek gods within the readathon. The Egyptian pantheon, you get all the Egyptian gods. You get it. Or you can choose the path, which is what I have done. I have chosen the path of the home. I think there are 5 different paths and 5 different pantheons, but with the path of the home there are these different gods that fit within the idea of the home. I hope that made sense. I'm not entirely sure that it did, but basically I'm doing the path of the home because I like being home. For each path you have 5 gods, so 5 prompts, and then there is 1 power. And the power for the path of the home is that you can switch one of the prompts for a comfort read, and I've come up with books for all the prompts and I kind of want to read them all, so I think I'm just going to read all 6 of the books and not technically use my power to replace one of the books. I really feel like this doesn't make any sense, but I'm going to leave the link to the Instagram down below, which is where I found all the info for this readathon. So if you're interested in learning more about this, you can check it out. So the first god that belongs to the path of the home is the Greek goddess Hestia, and she is the goddess of the hearth and of domestic life. And the prompt that is connected to this is read a book with fire in the title or fire on the cover. And for this I have chosen Kindred by Octavia Butler. It's pretty subtle, but I think that these things are meant to be fire as well as leaves, but they definitely look very fire-ish to me, so I'm going to count that. This was a gift from my parents for my birthday last year, and I've been wanting to read it ever since because I've heard amazing things about this since then as well. I've seen a lot of people read it and talk about it. This is a science fiction-esque novel and it's about time travel. The main character is Dana, who lives in 1976, and she dreams of being a writer, but it's also about Rufus, who lives on a Maryland plantation in 1815. And I think Dana is a black woman and Rufus is a white man. And somehow Rufus has this power of summoning Dana to him in 1815 from 1976 to save his life, I think. But the problem is that in 1815 Dana would have been considered a slave. And that's basically all I know about this book. I think there's a lot of struggle between Dana and Rufus and what it means to be a white man in 1815 and what it means to be a black woman from 1976 transported into 1815. I've heard a lot of good things about it and I'm very excited to read it. The second goddess in the path of the home is the goddess Frigg, who is from Norse mythology, and she is the goddess of, I have to check my notes here, marriage, prophecy and motherhood is what I wrote down. And the prompt is to read a book that features family, and for this I've chosen The Switch by Beth O'Leary, I think. I'm now kind of not sure about her name, but I bought it as an ebook because it was only 99 cents. And my rule is that I have to read an ebook before I get another ebook, so I have to read this and I really want to read it as well. I've wanted to read it ever since I read The Flatshare by the same author. And The Switch is about a woman whose name I'm kind of blanking on right now. She lives in the city, but then something goes wrong. I really should have read this synopsis better, but the premise of the book is that she moves to the village that her grandmother lives in because she wants to be away from the hustle and bustle of the city for a while, and she wants to just calm down, have some rest. And then when she gets there, her grandmother kind of feels like she wants to get away from the quiet life of the village, so she moves to the main character's apartment, I think, in the city. I think it's London, but I'm not entirely sure. So they're kind of switching around, hence the title of the book. So that's basically what the book is about. It obviously features family. I think the synopsis also said something about the main character being kind of bothered by intrusive family members, so there's more family there, I think. And I really liked The Flatshare when I read it last year, and I always love a book set in a small town or a village, so I'm really excited to read this. Next up we've got the Egyptian goddess Bastet. Bastet? I'm not entirely sure. And she is the goddess of the home, of domesticity, of women's secrets and of cats, among other things, but those were the ones I liked the most. And the prompt that is connected to her is to read a book that has a young female main character. And the book I've chosen for that is Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown. I got this last year and I was really excited to read it, but somehow I didn't get around to it. That's how those things go. And I also love the cover, just wanted to mention that because it's beautiful. But this book is part memoir, part magic, it says on the back. And the main character is a girl called Echo Brown. And she lives in New York. I think she is a wizard from the east side of Cleveland, so not New York. It says here, apartments are small and parents suffer addictions to the white rocks where she lives, yet there is magic everywhere. New portals begin to open when Echo transfers to the rich white school on the west side and an insightful teacher becomes a pivotal mentor. Each day, Echo travels between worlds, leaving her brothers, her friends and a piece of herself on the east side. There are dangers to leaving behind the place that made you. Echo soon recognizes the pain flowing through everyone around her, and the black veil of depression threatens to undo everything she's worked for. So this book is heavily autobiographical and it's infused with magical realism and it sounds absolutely wonderful. And I'm really excited to read this. I know I've said that for both other books I've talked about, but it's just true. I've chosen books that I really want to read and I'm really excited about my TBR. Next we have a Japanese deity. I'm not sure if this is a god or a goddess, but their name is Kojin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly because I don't know much about Japanese, but this is the deity that represents fire, the hearth and the kitchen. And because of that, the prompt for this is a book featuring food or featuring a kitchen. And for this I've chosen Peaches for Monsieur le Curé by Joanne Harris. This will actually be a reread for me because last year I started my reread of the entire Chocolat series. This is the third book. First we had Chocolat and the Lollipop Shoes. Then there's this one, and the fourth one I actually haven't read, which is why I wanted to do this reread. And then it took me a very long time because I read the second book in June or July, and we're now again in June or July. So it took me a year after finishing the second book to get to this one. I read this, I think in 2014 or 2013 or something, and it's about Vianne Rocher, just like the other two books, and I think she gets back to the village she lived in the first book, in Chocolat. She goes back to Lansquenet because she receives a letter from beyond the grave, but she finds that the village has changed a lot since she last left it 8 years ago. Back then she opened up a chocolate shop and she really changed the village, she made it more joyful, but now it has kind of changed. I'm not entirely sure anymore what has changed and what has happened, but I'm excited to dive back into it because I really love Joanne Harris' writing style and I really love these characters. I adore Vianne Rocher and her daughters, and I really love all of the descriptions of the food that Vianne makes, and I'm really excited again to read this again, and then I can finally move on to the fourth book, which I haven't read. The final goddess is Oba, who is a Yoruba goddess, I think, and she is a goddess of rivers. I couldn't really find a lot about this goddess, but I really like the idea of the goddess of a river. And the prompt for this is to read a book featuring water, and for this I've chosen A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab, and this is the second book in the Shades of Magic trilogy. I read the first book, which is A Darker Shade of Magic, last year, and I enjoyed it, but I wasn't blown away by it. It definitely wasn't my favorite V.E. Schwab book. I really love V.E. Schwab's novels. I think she has become one of my favorite authors. I absolutely adored The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue last year. I really like the Monsters of Verity duology, and I really enjoy her middle grade writing as well. But the first book of this was enjoyable, but I wasn't blown away by it, like I said. But I really hope that the second and then the third book will remedy that, because I did like the characters, I did really like the concept. The concept of this series is that there are multiple worlds and they are connected to one another because all of them have a city of London. There are a few people who have a special ability of traveling between these cities, and one of the main characters is one of those people who can do that. And then there's all these problems involved, there are high stakes, there are worlds being destroyed, and that's kind of all I can say about this, because that's also kind of all I remember, so I really should read a bit of a synopsis before diving into this, synopsis of the first book I mean. But I've chosen this for a book featuring water because I believe one of the main characters is on a pirate ship or is traveling on water at this point. So that's definitely water. And then, like I said, The Path of the Home also has the power of swapping one book for a comfort read. And I think I'm just going to read all of them. Like I said, I have a lot of time in July and I really want to read all of these books. So the 6th book I'll be reading is Beach Read by Emily Henry. I bought this at the end of summer last year, or maybe even at the start of autumn, and I didn't really feel like reading it then because of the season kind of having passed. It really seems like a book that's best to read in summer. It's about 2 writers, Augustus Everett and January Andrews, amazing names. And January is a writer of best-selling romance and Gus is an acclaimed author of literary fiction. And they meet each other when they're both residing near a lake in these vacation homes, I think, or just cottages, and they're both trying to write their new novels. And then they meet one another and they don't hit it off initially, and then they decide to swap. And Gus is going to try to write a romance novel and January is going to write a literary fiction novel. Antics ensue, I think there's a lot of banter, and I've heard that this kind of packs an emotional punch as well. It's more than a light-hearted romance novel, there's much more to it, I think. Although light-hearted romance novels are a lot of fun as well, but that's not what you should expect going into this, I think. I've heard that, but I'm not entirely sure. But this has been on my shelves for a while now, like I said. And it just seems so cheerful and exactly like the kind of read I want to read in July. So I'm just going to read this one as well, even if I don't want to switch out any of the other books on my pile. So those are all the books I plan to read in July for the Path or Pantheon Readathon. Please in the comment down below let me know if you're participating in this readathon or any other readathon and what you're planning on reading in July. Please like this video if you liked it and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of me in the future. And have a wonderful day. Bye!